Hello, everybody. You're on the mic, and today marks the 250th episode of On the Mic. So we've reached another milestone here. It's the 250th episode of On the Mic, which started pretty much about a year ago. As it started in early July, almost a full year ago that I switched over to the On the Mic format for my videos. Um, So on today's episode, we're going to be focusing in on Nick Rekieta's coverage, of course, um, of Vic's reply to Monica and Ron's response the to his appeals of the TCPA dismissal, as well as his response to the cross appeal of the fee judgment. So his response to their cross appeal of the fees judgment. So without no further ado, let me give my commentary on that. So as I was watching it, basically a lot of the points were very in terms of the issues raised and stuff, in terms of Vic's reply to their response were saying that one, they didn't really establish Vic as a public figure. Definitely not as a general purpose public figure, but also adding that they didn't establish it as him being a limited purpose public figure. Once again, the threshold there being that Vic, whether or not Vic inserted himself into into the discussion in which he was trying to orchestrate an outcome. And that, as previously mentioned in the other two replies as well, Vic didn't insert it, and just because he came out and defended himself, saying that no, I'm not this, doesn't make him a public figure. That's the whole point. The whole point of the public figure argument is, was Vic trying to draw attention to himself by defending himself? No, he was not. He didn't want any of this. And and of course, in that, definitely Vic is not a general purpose public figure. Okay. Basically, the general idea in layman's terms, is this: for Vic to be a general purpose public figure, he would have to be able to walk down the street and everybody instantly recognize him. That's not necessarily going to happen. That his fame is just so pervasive that he could just walk down the street like a movie actor or actress, major movie star like the President of the United States, somebody of that kind of notoriety or statute is what would constitute general purpose. For limited purpose public figure, it goes back to the idea of whether or not he drew enough attention to himself to become more known. That's the general idea. In other words, was he trying to insert himself into the public discussion of whether or not he was what a lot of these people were saying he was, whether that, as whether that was, did he commit enough sexual misconduct, or what did he actually commit enough of that, or was he, for the limited purpose public figure, it's, did Vic interject himself enough to make himself more well known, which he was not trying to. That was not his intent. And even if they're accusing him of certain things and then he comes out to defend himself, that doesn't automatically make you a public figure. if we went by that standard, everybody would basically be a public figure. So that's not how the limited purpose public figure statute works. So going on to the next, to basically the next set of issues, did Vic, of course. Now, even if the next set of issues revolves around whether or not there was enough evidence there to for Vic to claim that they defamed him. You know, and and contrary to their belief that he brought the suit to quote shut them up, it wasn't. And Ty pointed that out in this particular reply, in which it wasn't to shut them up, it was to recoup the damages that were caused by their defamatory statements. Okay? And was there, the second set of issues revolved around whether or not there was enough evidence there to support Vic's claims in his causes of action of, defamation, tortious interference with current business contracts as well as with prospective business contracts and civil conspiracy. And even if you take out the idea of the Second Amendment position, now Nick has argued that one of the ways that Ty is trying to argue this is that even by excluding the Second Amended petition and its attachments, there was still evidence there. And the ironic thing being is that the evidence was actually, even if you take out the Second Amended petition, all that, a lot of the evidence that Vic would have been providing through that was also presented in the briefs by the defendants. They actually presented a lot of this evidence in of itself to substantiate Vic's claims up to his causes of action. Okay, so that was the gist of that, that set of arguments throughout Vic's tweet, and we've gone over, for those of you who've been watching this story for a while, watching the situation for a while, all this. It's been hammered over and over and over again. One of the points that Nick brought up in regards to these points is the whole point of what, see, all the defendants could have done they could have filed their TCPA motions from the very start. But they didn't. They actually wanted depositions. Because what they really wanted to do was they wanted to bury Vic. That was what their whole intent was. It was to bury him. They figured they can get him to slip up in deposition and say something that could somehow validate their claims. They could really make it look bad for Vic. But he was masterful, and they could, and they provided all the evidence that Vic needed to substantiate his claims, but Judge Shupp just refused to acknowledge any of that evidence. Now, the third set of issues revolved around Ron and Monica's affirmative defenses. So the first one was that their communications were protected under the Communications Decency Act, which, from what Nick pointed out, that covers their communications with other people, but it doesn't necessarily cover what they said. Nor did they really provide any real evidence to support how the CDA protects their communications there and validates their claims. And he also pointed out that Judge Shupp didn't seem to want to hear it. He didn't want to hear it from Lemoyne as well. he pretty much shut down all of Lemoyne. He didn't, whether it's because he just didn't want to hear Lemoyne because of the whole how he talked or whatever. But um, then there's a second affirmative defense revolved around the qualified privilege. Well, Nick had made the point that they kind of like squashed that by revealing the evidence themselves. The reason that they didn't have to maybe supply as much evidence because it falls under qualified privilege, but however, the qualified privilege kind of got nullified because they released their own information on a lot of that. And the third part is they were citing, Vic's diminished reputation over the years, which was hogwash because most of us seen, Vic remained quite popular over the years. Anything, um, if anything, it strengthens his case that it was their statements that caused the damage. So that's all that I can say about their reply. Vic's reply to their responses. Now let's talk a little bit about Vic's response to their cross appeal on the fees. Judgment. Basically, what it comes down to is this: what Ty is basically arguing in with Vic's response to their cross appeal of the fees judgment is basically what it comes down to. When all is said and done, they're trying to fleece Vic. They're trying to fleece him for everything he's got. They're trying to send a message that if we say that you're this, then you are this, and there's nothing you can do about it. And we're gonna clean you out as best as we can, as much as we can. But as was pointed out by one of their co-defendants, one of her, Jamie Markey's attorney, Samuel Johnson, he was able to get, it was commonly said in the throughout the document that it was that Samuel Johnson and Funimation were able to get the same amount of work done for a quarter of what Lemoyne was charging. Okay, it was more, as Nick more pointed out, was more closer to 1/5 or 20%. So they get the same result for 20% of what Lemoyne was asking. And they were trying to say, well, our fact pattern was more convoluted. We did more. If anything, again, though, by arguing that, you're basically saying that, yeah, you did more to damage Vic's reputation. So, if anything, that may come back to bite you in the butt. So basically, I think what it comes down to is that they're trying to fleece Vic. They're trying to send a message, and I think it's going to backfire in their face. That's basically what that comes down to. Now, what Nick also pointed out is now, unless they choose not to reply to Vic's response, if they choose to reply to Vic's response, then we should hear something again at least in another 20 days. If they do not, it could be we may not hear anything for another 90 days. So it could be anywhere from like 3 weeks to 3 months that we next hear something about the case. So, and I'm pretty sure, and I'm going to warn everybody in I Stand With Vic right now this. Be aware of this. Chances are, depending on how long, Kick Vic is going to be at it again trying to justify their allegations against Vic. You'll probably have more people trying to come out of the woodwork saying, with more accusations, they're going to try to hammer this point home. They're going to try to continue to convict him on social media. So be forewarned of this. Until this whole case is, they're going to try to muddy the waters by coming out with all kinds of baloney. be ready for it. Okay? So, with all that being said, that's all I can really say about VIC's reply and response to these situations. Um, Without all that being said, let's move on to some happier stuff. First off, this is the 250th episode, so I hope you guys have been enjoying my coverage of all this, all the niche culture. Yes, 250th episode of of on the mic of the way this segment is now. Obviously, as I've said, I have over 300 videos, maybe closer to 350. I'll have to, but anyways. So, anyways, let's move on to some happier stuff. So let's take a look back over this day in niche history, because there's quite a bit of stuff gone on. Today is Friday, June 26, 2020. So let's take a look at what happened on this day back throughout niche history. First off, we go to 2005. From the Thomas and Mack Center in Las Vegas, Nevada, the WWE hosted its fifth annual Vengeance event on this date in 2005, which happened to be 15 years ago. And on this, so at the Vengeance event, what basically happened in the main event, Batista retained the World Heavyweight Championship by defeating Triple H in a Hell in a Cell on this event back in 2005. On the undercard, John Cena retained the WWE Championship in a triple threat match against Christian and Chris Jericho. Shawn Michaels would defeat Kurt Angle. Kane defeated Edge. Carlito retained the Intercontinental Championship against Shelton Benjamin. In the dark match, Rosie and Hurricane retained the World Tag Team Championships against Antonio and Romeo, the Heartthrobs. So that's all that happened on this date. For the most part, many of the feuds that were going on at the time were concluded at this time. This also led into the Edge Matt Hardy feud on this date. So that's all that happened on this date in 2005. So moving on from there, on this date 2 years later, in 2007, the televised anime adaptation of Death Note concluded its run on this date in 2007. As developed by Madhouse, Death Note completed its 37 episode run on this date in 2007. Death Note, as many of you know, is basically the story of the whole idea of a notebook that if you write a person's name in it, unless you actually write in details, they usually will die within like the first 5 minutes or so. You were to write in somebody's name into a death note, they would instantly die. Well, they would die within the first within 5 minutes, unless of course you added details. So on this date in 2007, it would complete its televised run in Japan on this date in 2007, 13 years ago today. And now moving up to 2013. The first issue of Volume 1 of Batman Superman would go on to newsstands on this date in 2013. On this date in 2013, DC would put out on newsstands the first issue of the first volume of Batman Superman. The Okay, so So on this date, so the story that was featured in that was Crossworld. So Crossworld, which from what little I read about it, was one in which they did kind of go back and forth between some universes, even though I don't know how the whole multiverse system works at this point in post crisis. But I think this is around the time I think of like Infinite Crisis maybe. Um, so anyway, so that happened on this date in 2013. So that's what all happened there. Now, with all that being said, if you guys would like to contact me directly, my you can check the links below. My Discord link is down there. You can check out the Discord and join if you'd like. I'm also still promoting a bunch of different dub companies. There's a lot of work out there. Check out, especially if you're not able to go out as much. There's a lot of work even from the past. Past like 20 years or so, from many of these different dub companies that you guys can check out. Much of the talent that's out there. Also, I'm still, of course, promoting VIC's GoFundMe as well as that Umbrella Guy and Little Umbrella Girls comic project on Indiegogo. As always, guys, never feel like you have to donate. If it's on your heart to do so and you have the means to, please consider donating. As I said, I'm still, as always, guys, never feel like you have to donate. If it's on your heart to do so and you have the means to do so, please consider donating. If you've already donated, please consider donating again. And if you cannot donate, you can still help out the cause by sharing the link. Sharing is caring. You never know. Maybe somebody in your circle of friends may want to help out the cause. It doesn't hurt to ask, after all. And if you like this content, please consider liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. I would look forward to the I look forward to the I always look forward to the conversations with you guys as long as you're of course as long as you're civil and respectful about it. Um and you know I usually will respond pretty quickly. And don't forget as well, later on tonight, because today is Friday, so later on tonight, of course, will be um, my next VA premiere, Voices Big and Small. This week I'm profiling Houston-based voice actor Blake Shepard. So I hope to see you guys out there, learn more about his work. Of course, he is the English voice for Soma Yukihara in Food Wars Shogeki no Soma. Um, Also, this Sunday I will be doing my first live stream, and hopefully I will see you guys there. So hopefully I'll see you guys either later on tonight or Sunday for the live stream, and if not, hopefully I'll see you guys on Monday. And if you subscribe, please, please check out my videos. Hopefully you guys might find some interesting tidbits there. So, anyways, I will talk to you guys later. Bye.